The Packers fell flat. The Bears' defense went splat. London scored a TD in London. Zach Wilson looked decent all of a sudden. And boy, oh boy, was Daniel Jones sacked. Welcome to the Mish Po. Alrighty, welcome to the week 4 episode of the Mish Po. As again, you can probably tell from the video version, it is once again yours truly, just Joey running the show here. Hopefully we'll get the other guys back, but we're just not quite lining up for the last couple weeks. So, but that's okay. You know, I've got a little bit of experience doing the show on my own, so I think I can handle it. Before we jump into football, I will crack open a beer. This is so it was a couple weeks ago when we were up at Bree's mom's place for the weekend. Apparently there was some church event that they were a part of, and there was alcohol donated, and I guess this one was not drank very much, and Bree's stepdad doesn't like it, so I got to take home a case of it. So I don't mind it. It's called Where Harry Met Sally, so not when, like the movie, but it's a Where Harry Met Sally, a farmhouse ale brewed in Door County, Wisconsin, which is where they're from. Farmhouse Brewery, Peach Barn. So like a Peach Barn, farmhouse and brewery. So yeah, it's not too bad. So why not? So while I pour this, I'll just touch on the one trade that occurred over the span since last week's episode. In this week's episode, there was, like I said, one trade. Bruce traded Jameson Williams and a 2024 ninth round pick to Fiala for a 2024 seventh and a 2024 13th. Obviously Bruce gets the ninth round pick. Is this really what the trade was? Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is it. Bruce gets the ninth round pick. And he gets, or sorry, no. Bruce gets the two picks. The seventh round pick is obviously the best pick of the three, and then an additional 13th on top of it. And yeah, I'm looking at the trade right here. That is exactly what the trade was. And then Fiala's taking a shot at Jameson Williams. Suspended for the first 5 games of the season, is eligible to return this week. I'm not sure how well he will do. Obviously, he missed the beginning majority of last season with that ACL injury. This year is the suspension. So not injury related, but obviously he wasn't able to practice because of the suspension. So we'll see how well he can acclimate into the lineup. So it definitely could work out for Fiala here. Jameson could become a solid fantasy player. Obviously, he was drafted in the top, definitely first round, maybe top 5 picks at the time, despite being injured and didn't knowingly miss the first season. But we'll see if he can finally get his footing and make something of himself. So overall, I good for both. Obviously, Jameson is the big factor here, but yeah, it could go either way depending on how well Jameson does. All right, and now we will jump into the recap of last week's season, or not season, but recap of last week. So we'll start with my matchup. Honestly, not too much here to say. I kind of just stay from out of the water. I had a lot of really good performances. Finally, Justin Fields did something pretty good. And Christian McCaffrey nearly 50 points. pretty solid day for him. DJ Moore likewise had himself a pretty solid game, and just pretty solid stuff all around for the most part for me. State did have a pretty good performance from his Baltimore Ravens defense. Um, but other than that, he probably was hoping for a bit more. DeAndre Swift did get 17.9, so pretty good stuff. And then Derrick Henry, 24.38. So not too bad there, but um, some disappointing scores. Probably the most disappointing is Joe Burrow, only 3.7 points from him. Still obviously dealing with that injury. And that team does not look very good over there in Cincinnati. So we'll see how well those guys can get things turned around. But yeah, I kind of slacked up State a bit. With the highest score on the week, I might as well add. So I beat him 162.95 to 105.48, moving us on to another not so close matchup where the knacker in the matchup got the short end of the stick, if you will. This is Lincoln versus Abby. And Lincoln had a very solid performance from a lot of his guys. Right around 15 points from a lot of them. So pretty good stuff. Nico Collins had 13.8, 15.2 from Thielen. So pretty good stuff from him. And then pretty much everybody on Abby's team except for Mark Andrews had a bad game. 25 from Mark. So pretty good there. You got -2 from your defense, which is not very fun. But yeah, pretty poor performance. Hopefully gonna rebound from that. So Lincoln was the victorious here, 121.54 to 65.48. Moving us on to Caleb versus Michael. Pretty close matchup, not the closest of the week, but pretty close regardless. There were some solid points. This is also a fairly low scoring matchup. Dalvin Cook only 2.8 points there for him. On Ross 16.6, so pretty solid stuff. That touchdown definitely helped him have himself a solid game. Likewise, Gabe Davis 15.1 with that touchdown. So Gallup had 11 points, so not too bad. Just yeah, all around pretty solid stuff here. So Michael got the win, moving to 4-0. 96.01 to Caleb's 81.60. Moving us on to the closest matchup of this past week, Fiala versus Bruce. Again, probably highlighted this last week, but there are two very good quarterbacks in this matchup, and both of them did pretty good. Josh Allen, 36.5, and Jalen Hurts, 24.16. So pretty good stuff there. Bit disappointing performances from the running backs on both sides here. Stephon Diggs, though, 36 points. I believe I did mention that. That'd be interesting to see how that played out with Bruce having the primary pass catcher for Fiala's quarterback. It made it a pretty close matchup for sure. But yeah, just some decent performances. Mentioned London getting that touchdown in London, so pretty good stuff from him. And boy, oh boy, did these defenses go off. The Dallas defense 27.25 and the Chargers defense 17.25. They got to be the number one defense? Yeah, that's insane. Dallas's defense, and they went negative against the Cardinals. I don't understand that, but despite that, they're probably averaging about 20 points. So that's just insane stuff. Final score in this one, Fiala very eked out the win, 110.45 to 107.21 against Bruce. Moving us on to Matt versus Adam. Pretty high scoring matchup. Adam with a very good performance. Josh, some good running back performances. Josh Jacobs, 27.9, and Kyron Williams, 26.7. And then, of course, Puka, 31.3 points. Crazy stuff. A.J. Brown finally had himself a good game, 38.5. And Chris Godwin also had a pretty solid game and 19.4 points from him. Evan Ingram, although overseas, had himself a solid tight end score of 11.9. And yeah, just some good scores all around. The defense is not so much, only a half a point for the 49ers defense and negative 0.75 for the Dolphins defense. So between the two defenses, they had negative 0.25. Yeah, Adam got the win 136.11 to Matt's 112.48. Moving us on to Brian, still undefeated against Sam. This one was not all that close, a difference of about 23-ish points. On his return from his injured, week, the concussion, Anthony Richardson came back and absolutely balled out. Speaking of guys returning, Alvin Kamara finally back from suspension, just had a casual 21.4 points. I think the stat line that's even crazier is he had 13 receptions for, get this, only 33 yards. I believe before that is the least amount of yards with that amount of receptions. I believe the record before that was like 70 something yards. So that's just kind of crazy. Derek Carr was absolutely awful, averaging less than 1 yard a pass in that matchup. Devon Achan, 27 points from him, so pretty good stuff. And then obviously the receivers over here on Brian's side with Jefferson and Adams, they did pretty good. So don't really need to talk about them too much. And just a pretty solid performance from Brian. Again, mentioning he moves to 4-0, only two 4-0 teams in the league. And the rest are 2-2 or worse. I don't think they're all either 2-2 or 1-3 besides the two 4-0 teams. But yeah, Brian got the win 122.95 to 99.47. Moving us on to the last matchup, a fairly close one. Colin versus T-Corn. Solid quarterback performances from both sides here. And then not so solid running back performances. Jerick McKinnon only had 0.7 points over there for Colin. There were some decent points on the other positions. Receiving had pretty solid points, an average of probably about 13 points between the four receivers here. But the tight ends, Cole Kmet had 27.6 points with those two receiving touchdowns. Not sure how much that will continue on to the next week and thereafter, but obviously a good performance there from Cole. Part of the reason that Colin got the victory here. So it was 117.14 for Colin and 105.23 for T-Corn. Now, before we jump into the week 5 matchups, we will quickly just run through the power rankings. But before we even do that, I'm going to quickly take a sip of my beer because I have not yet done that this episode, and I'm a little thirsty. So, yeah. So, power rankings. At 14, we've got State Farm. At 13, Abby. 12, Lincoln. 11, Sam. 10, Colin. 9, T-Corn. 8, Matt, who does have, I believe, the second most points scored on the season, as he mentioned earlier. Here, we'll scroll down and check out the chat. Man, I need to get myself a defense. Second most points, and he's 1-3. So just really unfortunate stuff. So yeah, Matt at 8. Fiala's at 7. Adam 6. 5. Caleb 4. Bruce 3. I have myself. 2. Brian and 1. Michael. Obviously, the two undefeated teams at the top. And then, I mean, I have the third most points scored on the week or on the season. So you can't really argue with me for third place. So, because also if you look at the lovely what's it called, the weekly report. Well, it's not on the desktop version here, but if you go on the mobile, you'll see I'm in third. So Alrighty, week 5. First up, me versus Fiala, couple 2-2 teams. Should be a good one. We're gonna have a lot of 2-2 matchups, or 1-3 matchups, because as I mentioned, there's a lot of those going around here. So we've got some decent quarterbacks. Obviously, Josh Allen has been good for longer this season. Justin Fields finally had his first good matchup of the season. Um, but then, of course, Christian McCaffrey is freaking Christian McCaffrey. He's gonna hopefully feast against Dallas. That'll be a tougher game for him. Probably the toughest game so far of the season. Definitely, probably the toughest defense he's had to face. Yeah, for sure. And so hopefully he can just just 25 will be fine. He doesn't need to go all the way to 50, but might be a bit of a tougher matchup for him. Um, we've got some couple Bears here. I mentioned Justin Fields, but then there's Roshan over here on Fiala's side, and then I currently have DJ Moore in my lineup. So we'll see if he can get a nice follow up to his past week's performance. Speaking of players on the same team, I will be playing Romeo Dobbs, and on the other side, Christian Watson. So it'll be the battle of Packers receivers. Obviously, Watson still getting back up to full strength after returning last week with his hamstring injury. So we'll see how well he can return and, you know, lock up some targets. We'll see how well he can do. Um, and then, obviously some pretty solid flex plays as well. Obviously, I'm going to pick myself. I'm pretty confident. I like my team. Obviously, not projected as the winner here, but projections don't mean jack shit to me. So I don't really care about that. I'm picking myself. So moving us on to Abby versus Brian. Brian, as I mentioned, undefeated, and Abby kind of having a rough time right now. Two very mobile quarterbacks in this matchup with Richardson and Tua, and then some solid running backs. We'll see if Kamara can keep it going as his first from his first performance of the season last week. And then Joe Mixon, not super great lately. We'll see if he can be the bright spot in that Bengals offense. Still running back 20, so not terrible, but obviously you were wishing for a bit more. Debo did not have a great last week. I believe, 0.6 points. So obviously Debo is very much more capable than that. As you can see in these past box scores, I expect some more from him. And then, there's just some other very solid players in this matchup. I mentioned the Brian receivers, but you also got, Mark Andrews over here on Abby's side. Saquon could play. We'll see. Probably not. But if he does go, then that would be obviously a boost for Abby. I will be picking Brian though in this matchup. It's just really hard to not pick Brian, especially since he's not lost this season. And I really don't think it's going to be all that close. I don't think Saquon probably plays. But yeah. Moving us on to another knacker. State Farm versus Colin. This one, the teams are a bit closer matched. Obviously, we've got the Joe Burrow problem. We'll see how well he can do if you even start him. State Farm, you could pick up another quarterback because you currently don't have any on your bench. But obviously, Joe Burrow has struggled mightily this season. He did pretty all right against Baltimore, 16.38. But other than that, you're lucky to break 5. He's only done that twice, and that's just not what you want from your quarterback. So, yeah, obviously some pretty solid running backs on this team or on this matchup as well. Swift, really showing off this season. Brian Robinson's been having his days as well. And some decent receiving options as well. I do favor the Knackers side here with Waddle and Tutu, probably. And then, Kittle's a pretty solid tight end. So That there are some pretty solid flex options over here. Marquise and Jacoby aren't bad, but Calvin Ridley and John Dotson are also not bad at all. Ridley's been having a bit of a down stretch. Ever since that first week where he kind of went off. He's been not super great. So we'll see if he can kick it up a bit and go off in what's potentially going to be a high scoring matchup against Buffalo. So, with all of that said, oh boy, I think I'm going to actually pick State Farm here in this matchup and even up the records between these two teams at 2-3. Moving us on to Caleb versus Matt. Um, Matt, as I mentioned, second most points scored on the season so far, but he only has one win to show for it. Hey, he's got great players, Kyron Williams and Puka, the two waiver wire ads for this season, and both of them just happen to be Rams, which is kind of crazy. But then also you got Jordan Addison and Evan Ingram who've been playing well. Javante, he's dealing with an injury, so we'll see if he can play. There are some decent options on your bench. Obviously, Keenan Allen's on bye, so that's rough. Jerome Ford also on bye, so that's rough. Oh, and yeah, the bye weeks are starting this week, so we'll see how well players or people can combat that. Geno Smith appears to be the only, and Mike Evans. Geno and Mike Evans appear to be the only players for Caleb. Obviously, Goff is a pretty solid option at quarterback, so not too much of a downgrade, if any, there. But Mike Evans, obviously, you'd want him in your lineup here. Currently, you do have him in, but he will surely be subbed out for a playing player this week. With all of that said, I think Matt gets himself a correction here, gets back on that victory train, and starts, making some headway towards, the top of the league here. Luckily, with a lot of the teams being either 1-3 or 2-2, you're not too far off from a playoff spot. So that's on the the bright side. So always keep fighting. You can definitely make a run at this point of the season. Anybody can. It's wide open. So we'll see how well this matchup fares for both teams, but I will be picking Matt. Moving us on to T-Corn versus Sam. I saw the projections and I imagined there would be quite a few bye week players, and I'm correct with Justin Herbert on bye, Joshua Kelly, and these are both for T-Corn. And then also on the bench, you've got Kareem Hunt on bye, Donovan Peoples-Jones. So that's a bit rough for T-Corn. Over on Sam's side, Parham, not sure if you would have played him, but he's on bye. And that appears to be it for Sam. So pretty lucky there. You got a couple of really young, really good running backs in James Cook and Devon A. Chan. Also very young, very good is Jahmyr Gibbs over on T-Corn side. Obviously, you'll have to fill that other running back spot. But Gibbs is good at playing football. Some solid receivers here. T. Higgins currently with that injury. We'll see if he plays. But some tight end solidness here as well. T.J. Hawkinson, I believe the tight end 3 on the season. Oh, well, the tight end 1 on the season. So very good stuff for him. Bit of a down week for him this past week, but other than that, he's been very, very solid for you, Sam. And then just some other pretty decent flex. And the defenses are solid, but not sure if those will be the starting defenses for this week for those two teams. Obviously, waivers have not yet run at the time of this recording. So we'll see if those are the final lineups. It's a little bit tough to determine with this for T-Corn because he's got those bye week players. He's going to be obviously picking up a quarterback as he's got none on his bench. Imagine he could throw either Gibson or Piran in there for his other running back spot. But, it's a bit tough to declare who might win this matchup when you're not sure who the full team is. But despite all that, I think I'm still going to go with Sam. He's just got some very solid ceiling players, I mean, Devon Chan went for 50 points 2 weeks ago. Who's to say he can't do that again? Um, I'm going to be going Sam here. It's a bit of an upset pick, but, bye weeks can make a good team bad. And maybe T-Corn's dealing with a little bit of that right now. So moving us on to Michael versus Lincoln. Oh boy, we got an undefeated team in this matchup. We'll see if he will get the thumbs of approval from me and see what his chances are. Decent quarterbacks, Stafford and Dak, veterans in the league, both solid. They probably will be fun plays. Maybe Dak will have a bit of a rough time going up against San Francisco, but I imagine Stafford can get some good throws against Philly. Their defense has not looked super great so far this year. The running backs are interesting. The matchups are not the best for really any of them. Um, Ramondre with going up against a tough Saints defense. And word is they're going to try to get Zeke more involved. Not quite sure how accurate that was supposed to be. Wasn't super accurate this past week, but you never know. It's a new week. It's a new chance for opportunities. Um, Obviously, some very solid running backs on this matchup here. We've got Tyreek and Amon Ra over there for Michael. And then Garrett Wilson and Devonta Smith for Lincoln. And Garrett Wilson gets to go up against the Denver Broncos defense, who, as we all know, is not good. Um, and then some very not exciting tight ends, in my opinion. Dawson Knox, who currently the tight end 32. I bet you it can't get worse than that. Well, I bet you it can with Kyle Pitts. Tight end 29. So I totally thought he would be worse. But regardless, not the best tight ends here. The flex players are pretty solid, though. Nico Collins and Adam Thielen over for Lincoln, and Gabe Davis and Brandon Ayuk for Michael. And then the Packers defense, Cleveland defense over here for Michael on by, and he's going to be picking up one. Obviously defenses can score a decent amount of points, but it's not the end all be all when it comes to a matchup here. So we will, just kind of assess what we've got here, crunch some numbers in the mind, and yeah, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Michael's perfect season continues here. So I will be picking him. Obviously you could go the other way. That'd be pretty sick. Give me a chance to take first place in the division. 2 games back from first right now, as are a lot of teams. In fact, Lincoln is 2 games back from first as well. But yeah, I think it's going to be Michael here. Just too many good players, and he's shown time and time again, he can get the job done. Moving us on to Bruce versus Adam in our final matchup of the week. A couple 2-2 teams here. Some solid quarterbacks in terms of fantasy. With Jalen Hurts and Kirk Cousins. And then, pretty solid running backs as well. And we'll see if Aaron Jones can get a bit better snap count. Obviously, he was also dealing with that injury this past week, but he's had since Thursday to recover. And hopefully he can, get a bit more action on Monday Night Football. Pretty solid receivers. AJ Brown obviously is one of the best. Stephon Diggs is one of the best. Probably 2 top 5. Yeah, Steph is 5 and AJ Brown 8. So pretty close, but I'm sure by the end of the season they will be both top 5, at least top 10. So Mari Cooper on the bye over here, I believe, for Bruce. Yep. And so you'll probably maybe plug in Mooney, maybe pick someone else up, and then also you've got Gus and couple Ravens running backs that you could plug in there if you so chose. Doesn't look like Adam is dealing with many buys in terms of starting players, except for Chris Godwin. He's pretty good, but you still got some solid players. Obviously, Raheem Mostert is, I think, the number 2 running back on the season. So, he's probably going to have a good game. especially against the Giants. So, man, this is going to be a pretty close matchup here. This might be a slight upset. Not sure if these, who's the projected winner. Obviously, currently it is Adam in terms of projections, but Bruce does not have that defense in there. Not sure if that would put him up to about even, but I think just with the standings and everything, Bruce is the better team. But I'm gonna pick Adam here. I think he's finally got some guys that have figured it out, a la Josh Jacobs. Going off 27.9 points this past week, I think that's probably about equal to what he did in his first 3 weeks combined, just about. So, and then AJ Brown, kind of similar story. Well, I mean, he's been doing good for most of the season, but he really went off um last week. So yeah, I'm going to be picking at him here in this matchup. Probably will be close. I expect it to be, high scoring. But yeah, it should be pretty interesting how this all shakes up for these teams this week. Um, so yeah, that should just about do it. Um, Good luck to everybody except for I even I forgot who I'm playing. Fiala, yeah. So good luck to everybody but Fiala. Hope everyone but Fiala wins. Well, I guess that can't be possible, but you know, we could get some ties. That'd be fun. But yeah, that'll do it for this week's episode of the Mish Po. So with that, thank you and thank you.